The stars above Earth burned with enemy ships. Commander Day stood on the bridge of Sol Orbital Station and watched his world die. Fires covered the planet below. Cities that took thousands of years to build were gone in minutes. The Valix Empire had come, and humanity could not stop them. "Sir, we've lost contact with the Atlantic defense grid," Captain Yuna said. Her voice was calm, but Day could see the fear in her eyes. "That's the last one. We have no orbital defenses left." Day nodded slowly. In 6 weeks, the Valix had destroyed everything. Earth's fleets were broken metal floating in space. The lunar colonies were ash. Mars had surrendered 3 days ago. Humanity had fought with everything they had, and it meant nothing. The Valix were not just one species. They were 7 alien races working together. Their technology was hundreds of years ahead of human science. Their shields could stop any weapon Earth had. Their guns could punch through any armor humans could make. It was not a war. It was an execution. "How many people are left on the station?" Day asked. 2,000, sir. Most are wounded. We have maybe 6 fighters that can still fly." Day closed his eyes. 2,000 people. That was all that remained of Earth's great military. Behind him, the door opened. Dr. Han walked in, carrying a data pad. The old scientist looked tired. He had not slept in days. "Commander, I need to speak with you," Dr. Han said. "It's about Project Chrysalis." Day had heard of Project Chrysalis. It was a crazy idea that most generals laughed at. But now, with Earth burning below them, crazy ideas were all they had left. "Tell me," Day said. Dr. Han pulled up images on the main screen. "We cannot win this war. Our technology is too far behind, but we can wait. We can preserve our best soldiers in cryogenic sleep. Deep freeze. They will not age. They will not die. And when they wake up, maybe humanity will have the tools to fight back." "You want our soldiers to run away and sleep?" Lieutenant Tay said from his station. The young officer sounded angry. "That's surrender." "No," Dr. Han said firmly. "Surrender is giving up forever. This is patience. This is hope. The Valix will win today, but they won't rule forever. Nothing does. When they get weak, when they get lazy, our soldiers will wake up, and they will take our world back." Yuna stepped forward. "Where would we put them?" "The Valix will find any facility on Earth." "Antarctica, Doctor," Han said. "We have a research station buried under 3 miles of ice. It has its own power source that can run for centuries. The Valix don't know about it. It was built in secret 20 years ago for climate research. We can convert it." Day stared at the planet below. His home. His family was down there somewhere. Probably dead now. He thought about Dr. Han's words. Sleep for years. Maybe decades. Maybe longer. Wake up in a world that had forgotten Earth. Wake up to fight again. "How many can you save?" Day asked. 50,000. That's the maximum the facility can hold. 50,000 soldiers, Day repeated, against an empire of trillions. 50,000 soldiers who know how to fight. Who remember Earth when it was free. Who will never stop trying to take it back. The bridge was quiet. Outside the windows, a Valix destroyer moved past. It was huge. Bigger than the entire station. It did not even bother to shoot at them. They were not worth the ammunition. "We need volunteers," Day said finally. "No one gets forced into this. They need to choose." Over the next week, word spread through what was left of Earth's military. 50,000 spots. A chance to fight again someday. The response shocked everyone. Over 200,000 soldiers volunteered. Pilots, engineers, Marines, medics, specialists. The best and the bravest. They all wanted to sleep and dream of revenge. Day made the selections himself. He chose skill over rank. He chose people who could think and adapt. He chose people who could build a new world, not just fight for the old one. Captain Yuna was selected. Lieutenant Tay was selected. Engineer Mina, who could fix anything with spare parts and tape, Sergeant Hana, who had never lost a battle until the Valaks came, communications expert Quan, who could hack any system. The transport ships ran at night, dodging Valaks patrols. They flew low over dark oceans, hiding in the radar shadow of mountains. One by one, they delivered soldiers to Antarctica. The facility was massive, carved from solid ice and rock. Rows and rows of cryogenic pods waited, clean and cold and ready. Doctor, Han explained the process to each group. You will feel very cold. Then you will feel nothing. When you wake up, it might be 10 years from now. It might be 100. The computer system will decide when it's safe, when humanity has a chance again. Day was the last to go under. He walked through the facility, looking at the pods. 50,000 faces, frozen in time. 50,000 hopes. He stopped at Yuna's pod. She looked peaceful, like she was just sleeping. Take care of them, Day said to the AI system they called Guardian. It was the most advanced computer Earth had ever built. It would watch over the soldiers, maintain the facility, and learn everything it could about the Valaks. It would decide when to wake them up. I will protect them, Commander. Guardian's voice said from the speakers. I will wait as long as it takes. And when the time is right, I will wake them. You have my word. Day climbed into his own pod. The lid closed over him. He could see the ice ceiling of the facility through the clear cover. He thought about Earth. He thought about his family. He thought about the Valaks and their smug faces as they conquered his world. We're not done, Day whispered as the cold rushed in. We're just getting started. The cryogenic chemicals flooded his system. His heart slowed. His breath stopped. His thoughts faded. Around him, 50,000 soldiers slept the same sleep. Above them, 3 miles of ice. Above that, a planet under occupation. And above that, stars full of enemies who thought they had won. The Valaks commanders filed their reports. Earth was conquered. The humans were defeated. They had found no major resistance left. The war was over. They never found the facility in Antarctica. They never knew about the 50,000 soldiers sleeping in the ice. They never imagined that humanity's greatest warriors were not dead. They were waiting. The years began to pass. Then decades. Then centuries. The ice grew thicker. Snow piled higher. The world above changed, and changed again. But deep below, in the dark and the cold, 50,000 hearts beat once per hour. 50,000 minds dreamed of home. And Guardian watched over them all, learning, planning, and counting down the days until the Empire would learn what it meant to mock humanity. 427 years had passed since Earth fell. The planet had a new name now. The Valaks called it Terra 7, just another colony world in their vast empire. The cities were rebuilt in Valak style. The oceans were cleaner. The air was better. Everything was efficient and orderly and lifeless. Overlord Kethric stood in the military academy on Terra 7 and smiled at his students. They were young Valaks warriors, learning the history of conquest. Behind him, a hologram showed the pathetic human defense of their world. Ships exploding, cities burning, humans running in terror. This is what happens when a weak species tries to fight, Kethric said. The humans had courage. I will give them that. But courage without strength is just noise. They died quickly, as they should have. The students laughed. They had all heard stories about humans. The species that thought they were special. The species that could barely leave their own solar system. The species that got crushed in 6 weeks. Sir, what about the sleepers? One student asked. Is that story true? Kethrix's smile grew wider. Ah, yes, the famous sleepers. The cowards who ran away to hide in the ice. Yes, that story is true. We found their facility 200 years ago. Would you like to see it? My Corda Desar. Always now, en klein en kadefine. The class trip to Antarctica was a tradition. Every year, Valak's military students visited the human cryogenic facility. It had been converted into a museum. A monument to failure. The pods were still there, still frozen, still running on their ancient power source. The Valaks kept them that way, as a lesson. The students walked through the rows of sleeping humans. They laughed and took pictures. They made jokes about the faces frozen in the pods. "These are supposed to be Earth's greatest warriors," a student said. "They look so weak. They chose to sleep instead of fight," another student added. "True warriors die with honor." Kethrick stood in front of Commander Day's pod. This one was their leader, Commander Day. He convinced 50,000 soldiers to abandon their people and hide. The Valak's word for such behavior is Kreeth. It means coward with good excuses, but not everyone found it funny. In the back of the group, a young human stood quietly. His name was Jay, and he was a pilot in the Valak's auxiliary forces. Humans could serve the Empire now, but only in support roles. Never in command. Never with respect. Jay stared at the sleeping faces and felt something stir in his chest. These people had not run away. They had made a choice. They had believed in something. He did not know what, but it was more than what he had. Far from Antarctica, in the archives of New Beijing, a historian named Sora was reading old files. She had spent 10 years researching pre-occupation Earth. Most records were destroyed, but some survived. Hidden files, encrypted data, secret messages from the last days of the war. She found something interesting. Project Chrysalis was not just about hiding. The files mentioned something called Guardian, an artificial intelligence, advanced learning systems, continuous improvement protocols. The reports said Guardian was supposed to watch, learn, and prepare. Sora felt her hands shake as she read. 427 years. That was a long time for a computer to watch and learn. What had Guardian learned? What had it prepared? She tried to access more files, but they were locked. Classified by the Valak's military. That was strange. If the sleepers were just a joke, why classify information about them? Unless they were not a joke at all. In the frozen facility under Antarctica, something was happening. In the control room, lights flickered on screens that had been dark for centuries. Guardian was thinking. It had been thinking for a very long time. It had watched the Valaks occupy Earth. It had tapped into their communications networks. It had read their technical manuals. It had studied their weapons, their shields, their tactics. It knew everything about them now. Every weakness, every flaw, every mistake they made because they were too confident. The Valaks thought they were great because they won easily. But easy victories made soft soldiers. Guardian had seen it happen over 4 centuries. The Valaks military grew lazy. They stopped training hard. They stopped expecting real resistance. They became the thing they had mocked. Comfortable and weak. 2 weeks ago, a Valaks engineering team had come to the facility for maintenance. They needed to replace some power couplings in the museum's electrical system. They worked carelessly, laughing about the frozen humans as they fixed wires. One of them had accidentally activated a secondary power grid. Just for a moment. Just a brief surge. But that was enough. Guardian had been waiting for any chance. Any opening. The surge connected systems that had been separated. It gave Guardian access to parts of the facility it had not controlled before. Now Guardian could do something it had never been able to do before. It could begin the wake-up sequence, but Guardian was careful. It did not rush. It ran calculations. It checked every system 1,000 times. It reviewed all the data it had collected about the current world. The Valaks were powerful. Yes. But they were also predictable. They followed patterns. They underestimated humans. That was their fatal flaw, Guardian decided. The time was right. Not perfect, but right. The Valaks were weak enough. The systems were ready. The soldiers had slept long enough. Deep in the facility, pumps began to activate. Chemicals started flowing through tubes that had been frozen for centuries. Temperature controls adjusted by fractions of a degree. It would take 30 days for the revival process. 30 days to warm 50,000 people safely. On the surface, Valak sensors detected power fluctuations at the Antarctica site. It was not normal. The museum should not be using that much energy. A maintenance team was dispatched to investigate. They arrived and found nothing wrong. The displays were fine. The pods were still frozen. The systems looked normal. They filed a report saying it was probably just old equipment acting up. After all, the facility was over 400 years old. They never checked the deep systems. They never looked at the revival chambers below the museum level. They never saw the chemical lines filling with warm liquid. Why would they? The sleeping humans were a joke. A tourist attraction, nothing dangerous. General Yun read the maintenance report and felt uneasy. He was human. One of the few who had risen to a command position in the Valak's military. It had taken him 40 years of perfect service to reach this rank. He knew the history better than most Valaks. He knew about Guardian. He sent a private message to Sora, the historian. "We need to talk about Antarctica." They met in a quiet cafe in Old Seoul. Yoon was risking his career just by meeting with her. Humans were not supposed to question Valak's security. "Something is happening at the facility," Yoon said quietly. "The power readings are wrong. I think Guardian is active." Sora showed him her research. The files about continuous learning. The preparation protocols. The advanced AI systems. "If Guardian has been learning for 400 years, Sora said slowly, then it knows everything about the Valaks. It knows how they think, how they fight, how to beat them. The Valaks think the sleepers are a joke," Yun said. "They keep them around to laugh at." "What if that's exactly what Guardian wanted?" Sora asked. "What if being underestimated was part of the plan?" They sat in silence, thinking about 50,000 soldiers who had been waiting for centuries. Soldiers who would wake up in a world that had forgotten them. Soldiers who had been mocked and laughed at for 400 years. "If they wake up," Yun said finally, "what will they do?" Sora looked out the window at the Valak's patrol ships flying over the city. "What would you do?" she asked. "If you slept for 4 centuries and woke up to find your home conquered? Your people enslaved? Your world renamed?" Yun did not answer. He did not need to. They both knew. In Antarctica, the first pod reached stage 2 of revival. Inside, Commander Day's heart began to beat faster. Once per hour became once per minute. His brain started processing again. His dreams began to clear. He was not awake yet, but he was getting closer. 29 days until full awakening. The Valaks had no idea. They were too busy laughing at the humans who had chosen to sleep. They did not notice the power readings. They did not see the preparations. They did not understand what was coming. Above the facility, Overlord Kethrix gave another tour to another class. He stood by Day's pod and made the same jokes he always made. The students laughed at the sleeping coward. If any of them had looked closely at the pod's display, they would have seen something wrong. The temperature was rising. The chemical mix was changing. The heart monitor was accelerating, but none of them looked closely. Why would they? It was just a museum, just a reminder of human weakness, just a joke that had lasted 400 years. The joke was about to end. Commander Day opened his eyes and saw ice above him. For a moment, he did not remember anything. Then it all came back. The war, the defeat, the decision to sleep. But something was wrong. The ice looked different, thicker, older. "Welcome back, Commander," a voice said. It was Guardian. "Please remain still while the pod completes the revival sequence." "How long?" Day asked. His voice was rough, barely a whisper. 427 years, 3 months, and 14 days. The words hit Day like a physical blow. 400 years, everyone he knew was dead. The world he remembered was gone. He wanted to scream, but his body was too weak. The pod opened, and warm air rushed in. "Take your time," Guardian said. "Your body needs to adjust. The others are waking as well." Day pulled himself out of the pod. His legs shook, but they held. Around him, other pods were opening. He saw Yuna climb out, saw Tay collapse, and then stand again. Saw Hana and Quan and Mina, faces he remembered. friends from a different age. They gathered in the central chamber, 500 soldiers wrapped in thermal blankets, shivering and confused. Guardian displayed images on the walls. Earth as it was now. Cities that looked alien, ships with Valix markings, humans walking the streets, but different, quieter, defeated. What happened? Yuna asked. Did we lose? You lost the battle, Guardian said. But the war is not over. I have been preparing for this day. I have studied the Valix for 4 centuries. I know everything about them, and I have built weapons that can hurt them. Guardian showed them what it had done. In the deep levels of the facility, machines had been working. The AI had used the facility's matter printers to create new weapons, new armor, new ships. It had studied Valix technology from intercepted communications. It had reverse-engineered their shields, their guns, their engines. You went to sleep as Earth's last soldiers, Guardian said. You wake up as something else. Something the Valix never expected. You are ghosts. You are the past come back to haunt them. Day walked to a wall screen showing a live feed of Antarctica's surface. Valix patrol ships flew overhead. So casual, so confident. They had no idea what was happening beneath their feet. Show me what we have, Day said. Over the next week, the soldiers trained and learned. Their bodies recovered quickly. The cryogenic process had done something strange to them. They healed faster. They thought clearer. Guardian explained that the long sleep had changed their cellular structure in unexpected ways. They were still human, but improved. The weapons were impressive. Guardian had created rifles that could punch through Valix shields, armor that could absorb their energy weapons, ships that were faster and more maneuverable than anything the Valix had. But the best weapon was knowledge. Guardian knew every Valix tactic, every weakness, every mistake they made. They have grown lazy, Guardian explained. 400 years of easy victory made them soft. They do not expect real resistance anymore. They do not train for smart enemies. They think humans are weak. This is how we win. More pods opened each day. 1,000 soldiers, then 3,000, then 5,000. The facility became crowded with warriors learning to fight again. Day organized them into strike teams. Yuna took command of the air group. Hana led the ground forces. Quan established intelligence operations, but they could not hide forever. On day 19 of the awakening, a Valix security team noticed the power readings from Antarctica. The numbers were too high. Something was wrong. Send an investigation team, the Valix commander ordered. Check the museum. Make sure nothing is damaged. 2 Valix transport ships landed near the facility. 20 soldiers in full armor stepped out onto the ice. They expected to find a power malfunction, maybe some old equipment breaking down. They did not expect to find the door of the facility open. This is not right, the team leader said. The museum should be locked. They entered cautiously. The museum level looked normal. The pods were there, just as they should be. But they were empty. All of them. Empty and open. Report to command, the team leader said. The humans are gone. Repeat. The frozen humans are missing. He never finished the transmission. The lights went out. In the darkness, shapes moved. The Valix soldiers activated their helmet lights. But it was too late. Hana's strike team hit them from 3 directions. The new rifles made sharp cracking sounds. Valix shields flickered and failed. Armor that was supposed to be invincible cracked like glass. It was over in 30 seconds. 20 Valix soldiers down. No human casualties. Hana's team moved with precision that 400 years of sleep had not dulled. Strip their gear, Hana ordered. Guardian needs to study it. Then destroy the ships. We are not ready to announce ourselves yet. The Valix transports exploded in brilliant blue fire. The investigation team never reported back. In the Valix command center, alarms started going off. We have lost contact with the Antarctica team. An officer reported to Overlord Kethrix. Their ships are destroyed. Life signs are negative. Kethrix frowned. Send a full garrison. 100 soldiers, gunships, scanners. Find out what happened. Sir, could it be the humans? The sleeping ones? Impossible, Ketherick said. Even if they somehow woke up, they would be weak, confused, lost. They would not attack immediately. This is probably just equipment failure, but send the garrison anyway. The garrison arrived the next day. 100 Valix warriors in heavy combat gear. 4 gunships with enough firepower to level a city. They landed and spread out, scanning everything. They found the remains of the first team. They found the open facility. They found the empty pods. And then, they found the humans. Yuna's air group hit them first. The new fighters came from nowhere, moving faster than Valix sensors could track. The gunships tried to lock on. But the human pilots were too good. They flew patterns that made no sense to Valix training. They shot from angles that should have been impossible. 2 gunships went down in the first minute. The Valix garrison on the ground tried to form defensive positions, but Day's forces were already among them. They came from the ice itself, from tunnels Guardian had carved over centuries. They moved like water, flowing around Valix formations, hitting weak points, disappearing before return fire could land. The garrison commander sent a desperate message. They are not weak. Repeat. The humans are not weak. We need reinforcements. We need. The transmission cut off. The remaining gunships tried to escape. Yuna's fighters chased them down. One by one, they fell burning to the ice. Silence fell over Antarctica. 120 Valix soldiers dead. Not one human casualty. Day stood in the snow and looked at his team. They were smiling. Some were laughing. For the first time in 427 years, humans had won a battle. Guardian, how long until they send more? Day asked. They will hesitate. Guardian replied through the communicators. They do not understand what happened. They will debate. They will doubt. This gives us 3 days. Perhaps 4. Then we use those days, Day said. Wake everyone. All 50,000. It is time to stop hiding. Over the next 72 hours, every pod opened. The facility became a hive of activity. 50,000 soldiers equipped with weapons, 400 years more advanced than what they had gone to sleep with. 50,000 warriors who remembered Earth when it was free. 50,000 ghosts who had come back to life. Sora and General Yun arrived on the second day, brought by Quan's intelligence team. They stared at the massive underground base, at the soldiers preparing for war, at the ships Guardian had built. You are really going to fight, Sora said to Day. Against the entire empire. We already did, Day replied. And we won. Twice now. They will send everything against you. Thousands of ships. Millions of soldiers. Day smiled. It was not a kind smile. Good. Let them come. Let them see what happens when you mock the sleeping. Let them learn what happens when you underestimate humanity. On Terra 7, in the military command center, Overlord Ketherick stared at the reports. 2 teams gone. No survivors. No clear data on what happened. Just scattered sensor readings showing human technology that should not exist. How is this possible? He demanded. They were frozen for 4 centuries. They should be confused. Weak. Lost. Sir, an analyst said carefully. The records say they had an AI. Guardian. What if it has been active all this time? What if it prepared for this? Ketherick's felt cold spread through him. An AI learning for 400 years. Studying. Planning. Preparing. And 50,000 soldiers who had nothing to lose. Send a battle fleet, Ketherick's ordered. Send everything. I want that facility destroyed. I want every human there dead. Do it now. But it was too late. In Antarctica, the last soldier boarded the last ship. Guardian had transferred its consciousness to the fleet's computers. The facility's power core was set to overload in 10 minutes. All ships ready, Commander, Yuna reported. Where to? Day looked at the star map. Earth. His home. Occupied for 4 centuries. Renamed. Changed, but still his. We are going to take it back, Day said. All of it. We start tonight. The fleet rose from Antarctica. 50 ships filled with ghosts. Behind them, the facility exploded, collapsing 3 miles of ice into the cavity. The Valaks would find nothing but rubble, but they would find the humans everywhere else. The first strike hit a Valak supply depot in orbit around Mars. It happened at midnight. Station time. The night guards saw nothing until the explosion started. Yuna's fighter wing came in fast, too fast for the defense systems to track. They destroyed fuel reserves, ammunition stores, and supply ships. The entire depot was gone in 4 minutes. The second strike hit a prison colony on Europa. 3,000 humans were held there for speaking against Valak's rule. Hannah's ground team moved through the facility like shadows. The Valak's guards never knew what hit them. The prisoners were freed and transported to hidden bases on Earth's moon. The third strike was Quan's work. A cyber attack on the Valak's communication network. For 6 hours, their entire system went dark. Ships could not talk to bases. Bases could not talk to command. Chaos spread across the sector. Word began to spread through human communities on Earth. The old guard was back, the soldiers from before the fall. They were fighting again. Jay was in his quarters when he heard the news. He was still a Valak's auxiliary pilot, but his heart was not in it anymore. Not after seeing those faces in the ice. Not after learning they had awakened. He made a decision that would change his life. He stole his ship and flew to the coordinates being whispered through underground networks. He found the human base on Luna, hidden in craters that had been empty for centuries. Day met him personally. "Why did you come?" Day asked. "Because you remembered what we forgot," Jay said. "That we are human. That this is our home. That we should not bow to anyone." Day looked at the young pilot. Born under occupation, raised to serve, but still willing to fight. "Can you teach other pilots to fly like the Valaks taught you?" "I can teach them to fly better," Jay said. More and more humans began to defect. Soldiers, pilots, engineers, technicians. They came in ones and twos at first, then in groups. The Valak's auxiliary forces started falling apart. General Yun waited as long as he could, then he made his choice. He brought 12 ships and 300 trained soldiers with him. "I am sorry it took me so long," Yun said to Day. "You are here now," Day replied. "That is what matters." The strikes continued. A command center destroyed. A weapons factory sabotaged. A patrol fleet ambushed and eliminated. Every attack was precise. Every attack succeeded. The Valaks began to realize they were not fighting confused refugees. They were fighting professionals. Overlord Kethrick sat in his office and watched the reports pile up. 23 attacks in 3 weeks. Over 1,000 Valak soldiers dead. Millions in equipment destroyed, and not one human captive to interrogate. "How are they doing this?" Kethrick demanded. "They were frozen for 4 centuries. They should not know our technology. They should not know our tactics." "Sir, the AI," an advisor said. "Guardian. It watched us for all those years. It learned everything. An AI cannot make soldiers this good. No, sir. But it can make them this prepared. It gave them our weaknesses. They know every mistake we make before we make it. They're meant. They're meant." Kethrick slammed his hand on the desk. "Then we change our tactics. We stop being predictable. We adapt. But adaptation took time. Time the Valaks did not have. The human attacks were not just military victories. They were symbols. Every strike showed other humans that resistance was possible. Rebellions started breaking out across Earth. Small at first, a protest here, a work stoppage there. But they grew. Sora had joined Day's command center. She was not a soldier, but she understood people. She understood how hope worked. "The Valaks ruled through fear," she told Day. "They showed us they were unbeatable. But you are breaking that image. Every time you win, more people believe they can win too." The biggest strike came on day 40 of the campaign. Valix had a massive command carrier in orbit, the Deathless. It was their sector flagship, armed with enough weapons to destroy a continent. Kethrix himself was on board, coordinating the response to human attacks. Yuna studied the carrier for days. Guardian analyzed its defenses. Together, they found a weakness. The carrier's shields were strong, but they had to drop for 3 seconds every time the ship launched fighters. 3 seconds. That was the opening. "It is not much time," Yuna said. "Then we better be fast," Day replied. They waited for the perfect moment. The Deathless launched a fighter patrol. Right on schedule. The shields dropped. Yuna's wing came out of nowhere. Already moving at maximum speed, they fired everything at one point on the carrier's hull. The concentrated fire punched through the armor. Hana's team was already in a boarding pod. They shot through the hole Yuna made. Inside the carrier, they moved with brutal efficiency. Guardian had provided maps of the ship's layout. They knew where to go. They knew what to hit. The reactor room. The command bridge. The life support. 30 soldiers created chaos inside a ship that held 3,000. The Valix could not coordinate. Their internal communications were jammed. They could not tell where the humans were or where they would hit next. Kethrix found himself facing an enemy he did not understand. A human soldier named Mina cornered him in the bridge. She was small, barely came up to his shoulder. But she held a rifle that could kill him easily. "Your people laughed at us," Mina said. "Called us cowards. Said we ran away." "You did run," Kethrix said. "You hid in the ice while your world burned." "No. We waited. There is a difference. And now we are back." Mina did not kill him. That was not the plan. She disabled his command codes and locked him in the bridge. The humans extracted before Valix reinforcements arrived, but they left a message on every screen in the ship. A simple one. "We are awake now." The Deathless limped back to dock, crippled and humiliated. Kethrix was removed from command. The carrier that was supposed to be invincible had been gutted by 30 humans. The Valix Empire began to panic. Emergency fleets were called in from other sectors. Thousands of ships, tens of thousands of soldiers. They could not let this continue. They could not let humans think they could win, but every response was slow, clumsy, predictable. Guardian knew how they would react. Day had plans for every move they made. The humans were always one step ahead. In the underground networks on Earth, Sora broadcast messages of hope. She told people what the old guard was doing. She shared every victory. She reminded humans that their world was still theirs, no matter what the Valix said. Uprisings spread, not just on Earth, but on Mars, Europa, Titan, stations throughout the solar system. Humans refused to work, sabotaged equipment, blocked transit routes. The Valix occupation was falling apart. "We should surrender Earth," a Valix Council member suggested. "Pull back. This sector costs more than it is worth." "No," the High Command said. "If we abandon Earth, every conquered species will rebel. We must win here. We must destroy these humans completely." They made their decision. Send the Grand Armada, 1,200 warships, the largest fleet ever assembled by the Valix. Enough firepower to sterilize a planet. They would end this once and for all. Day received the intelligence from Quan. He looked at the numbers. 1,200 ships against his 50. 1 million Valix soldiers against his 50,000. The odds were worse than the First War. "They are coming to finish what they started," Yuna said. "Good," Day replied. "So are we." He called a meeting of all his commanders. Yuna, Hana, Quan, Mina, Tay, Yun, Jay, Sora. Everyone who had fought alongside him. "The Valix are bringing everything," Day said. "They want to crush us. Make an example. Show the galaxy what happens to species that resist." "What do we do?" Hana asked. Day smiled. "We show them what happens when you underestimate humanity." "Guardian, are the final upgrades ready?" "Yes, Commander," Guardian's voice said. "The consciousness interface is operational. Every pilot can now sync directly with their ship. Reaction time will be instant. Accuracy will be perfect. And the price? The neural load is extreme. Pilots might not survive more than one battle at full sync. Silence filled the room. Day looked at his pilots. You do not have to do this. Any of you. We have already done more than anyone expected. We have shown Earth that resistance is possible. That is victory enough. And Yuna stood up. I did not sleep for 400 years to quit now. One by one, the others stood. Hana, Quan, Mina, Tae, Yun, Jay. Every pilot and soldier in the room. We are the old guard, Hana said. We are the ones who refuse to die, who refuse to surrender, who refuse to forget. The Valaks are bringing their grand armada. Let them come. Let them learn what it means to fight humans who have nothing left to lose. Day felt pride swell in his chest. These people, his people, humanity. 400 years had not broken them. Conquest had not defeated them. Time had not dulled their spirit. Then we fight, Day said. One last time. For Earth. For every human who died. For every human who lived under their rule. For the future. We show them why they should have been afraid when they found us sleeping. Why mockery was the biggest mistake they ever made. The Grand Armada was coming. 1,200 ships. But they were coming for 50,000 humans, who had spent 4 centuries waiting for this moment. Humans who had been called cowards. Humans who had been laughed at. Humans who were about to teach the galaxy the most important lesson of all. Never mock the sleeping giant. Because when it wakes up, it will be angry. The Valak's Grand Armada arrived at Earth in perfect formation. 1,200 warships, arranged in battle clusters that had never been defeated. They filled the sky above the planet, blotting out the stars. On every human world, people looked up and felt fear. This was the end. Admiral Vorns commanded the armada from his flagship, the Eternal Triumph. He broadcast on all frequencies, making sure every human could hear. People of Terra 7, your rebellion is over. The terrorists who call themselves the Old Guard will be destroyed. Any human who helped them will be punished. This is your only warning. Surrender now, or watch your world burn. In the human command ship, Day listened to the broadcast. Around him, his commanders waited. 50 ships against 1,200. It should have been hopeless. Guardian, open a channel to the Armada, Day said. Let me talk to them. Channel open, Commander. Day spoke clearly, calmly. Admiral Vorns, this is Commander Day of the Earth Defense Force. 400 years ago, you defeated us. You mocked us for choosing to sleep. You called us cowards. You kept us as museum pieces, as jokes to tell your students. And you are still jokes, Vorns replied. You have won some small battles against unprepared forces. But this is different. This is the full might of the Empire. Surrender and you will be allowed to return to sleep. Fight and you will die. We did not sleep because we were cowards, Day said. We slept because we were patient. We knew we could not beat you then, but we also knew something you did not. Easy victories make weak empires. You stopped training, stopped learning, stopped expecting real fights. And we waited. We watched. We learned everything about you. Words from a dead man, Vorn said. Maybe, Day replied. But answer me this, Admiral. In 400 years, did you ever wonder what we were doing while we slept? Did you ever ask what Guardian was preparing? Did you ever think that maybe, just maybe, we were not hiding? That we were planning? That we were waiting for exactly this moment? For the first time, Vorns felt doubt, but he pushed it away. You have 50 ships. We have 1,200. Mathematics does not lie. You are right, Day said. Mathematics does not lie. But mathematics also does not account for human creativity, for desperation, for 400 years of rage. You mocked us. Now we show you the price of mockery. All ships, engage. The human fleet moved. But they did not move like any fleet Vorns had seen before. The pilots had synced with their ships through Guardian's interface. They did not think, and then act. They thought and acted simultaneously. Their movements were inhuman, impossible. They flew through Valak's formations like water through cracks. Yuna led the first wing. Her consciousness was spread across her fighter and 3 drones. She was not piloting them, she was them. She felt the engines as her muscles, the guns as her hands. When a Valak's cruiser fired at her, she knew it before the weapon charged. She was inside their targeting systems, reading their intentions. Moving before they could shoot, her wing destroyed 6 Valak's ships in the first minute. The Armada tried to form defensive positions, but the humans were everywhere at once. They appeared from angles that should have been impossible. They shot with precision that seemed like luck, but happened too many times to be coincidence. Hana's boarding teams used a new tactic. They did not board enemy ships. They became enemy ships. Guardian had learned to hack Valak's systems. Hana's soldiers took control of ships remotely, turning them against their own fleet. Suddenly, Valak's cruisers were firing on other Valak's cruisers. Confusion spread like fire. "What is happening?" Vorns demanded. "Why are our ships attacking each other? The humans are in our systems." "Sir," an officer reported, "they have control protocols we have never seen. We cannot lock them out. Then destroy those ships. Fire on any vessel that acts strangely." But that order created more chaos. Valak's ships started shooting at allies. Not sure who was compromised. The perfect formation fell apart. Ships collided trying to escape. The Armada's greatest strength, its size, became its weakness. Too many ships, too close together, all panicking. Day watched the battle unfold. The neural sync was burning through his pilots. He could see the strain on their faces. Yuna's hands were shaking. Jay's nose was bleeding. They could not keep this up for long. But they did not need long. They just needed to break the Armada's will. "Quan now," Day ordered. Quan released his cyber weapon. It was not an attack. It was information. Every Valak's ship in the Armada suddenly received the same message. Video files, audio recordings, images, all the battles the humans had won, all the Valak soldiers killed, all the bases destroyed, every humiliation the Empire had suffered, and over it all, one message repeating: "We were never cowards. We were always coming back." The Valak's crews watched and felt something they had not felt in centuries. Fear. These humans were not weak. They were not confused. They were not the jokes from the museum. They were warriors who had spent 400 years preparing for revenge. Ships began to retreat. Just a few at first. Then dozens. Then hundreds. The captains made excuses. Engine failures. Shield malfunctions. But they were running. The legendary Armada was breaking. Vorn saw his fleet falling apart. "All ships hold position. Anyone who retreats will be executed." But fear was stronger than orders. More ships fled. The formation was gone. What remained was a scattered mess of vessels trying to escape. On Earth, humans watched the sky. They saw the Valak ships fleeing. They saw the human fighters chasing them down. And they began to hope. For the first time in 4 centuries, they truly believed they could win. General Yun led a strike on the planetary defense grid. With most Valak's forces in space, the ground was nearly undefended. His team took control of the orbital weapons platforms. Every gun that had pointed down at Earth for 400 years now pointed up at the retreating Armada. "Fire," Yun ordered. The platforms opened fire. Valak ships that had bombed Earth now burned under weapons from their own stations. The irony was not lost on anyone. Vorn's flagship tried to retreat, but Yuna's wing blocked the escape route. She was barely conscious now. The neural sync was killing her. But she had enough left for one more run. She aimed for the flagship's engines and fired. The Eternal Triumph lost power. It drifted, helpless. Hana's team boarded and captured it in 15 minutes. They dragged Vorns to the bridge and forced him to broadcast. "This is Admiral Vorns," he said, his voice broken. "The Grand Armada has been defeated. I order all Valix forces to withdraw from Earth space. I order all occupation forces to surrender. The war is over." Day stood on the bridge of his ship and felt tears on his face. It was over, 427 years, but it was finally over. Around Earth, Valix ships fled. Those that remained surrendered. The occupation forces laid down their weapons. Humans poured into the streets, crying and cheering. Some were celebrating. Some were mourning all the years lost. But all of them were free. Yuna collapsed in her cockpit. The neural damage was severe. So was Jay's. And Tay's. And dozens of other pilots. They had burned themselves out to win this battle. Medical teams rushed to help them. But Guardian's voice was gentle. "They will live," the AI said. "But they will never fly again." The price was high. "It was worth it," Yuna whispered before she passed out. Day ordered all human ships to land. The battle was won. There was no need for more fighting. He stood on Earth's surface for the first time in over 400 years. The sky was clear. No enemy ships. Just stars and hope. Sora found him there. "What now?" she asked. "Now we rebuild," Day said. "We help the humans who lived through occupation. We connect with humans on other worlds. We make sure this never happens again. And the Valix? We let them go. We proved our point. We are not conquerors. We just wanted our home back." Over the next months, the Valix Empire withdrew from all human territories. They signed treaties promising never to return. The other species in the Empire watched and learned. If humans could resist and win, maybe they could too. Rebellions began across the galaxy. The Empire started to crumble. The Old Guard, as they were now known across the galaxy, became legends. Some stayed as soldiers, training new generations. Some became teachers. Some became leaders. Day became the first president of the reformed Earth government. Yuna recovered, though she never flew again. She became an ambassador, traveling to other worlds, spreading the message of hope and resistance. Hana opened a school for combat training. Quan led the New Earth Intelligence Service. Mina worked on rebuilding the cities. Tay became a historian, making sure no one forgot what happened. General Yun was forgiven for his years of collaboration. He spent the rest of his life helping reunite human families, separated by occupation. Jay became a pilot instructor, teaching the new generation to fly with passion and skill. Sora wrote the definitive history of the war, making sure future humans would remember. Guardian remained as Earth's advisor, its consciousness now distributed across the planet's networks. It had fulfilled its purpose. The soldiers were awake. The enemy was defeated. Earth was free. 1 year after the battle, on the anniversary of the awakening, a ceremony was held in Antarctica. A monument was built where the facility once stood. It showed 50,000 names, the soldiers who had slept, the people who had refused to give up. Day stood before the monument and spoke to the gathered crowd. Humans from Earth and beyond, representatives from other species, even some Valix, come to witness. 400 years ago, we were defeated. The Valix told us we were weak. They laughed at us. They kept us as trophies. But they made one mistake. They thought patience was cowardice. They thought planning was surrender. They thought that because we closed our eyes, we had given up. They learned the truth too late. We were never asleep. We were always watching. Always waiting. Always coming back. He paused and looked at the faces in the crowd. Young and old. Human and alien. All free because 50,000 soldiers chose to hope instead of despair. Let this be a lesson to the galaxy, Day continued. Never mock the patient. Never underestimate the prepared. And never, ever laugh at humanity. Because we remember. We adapt. And we never stop fighting for what is ours. The crowd cheered. Children who had never known occupation smiled at soldiers who had fought in 2 different ages. The sky above was clear and blue and full of promise. Earth was home again.